Now I think we can welcome to our keynote speaker. So our keynote speaker is Bharath Kumar Hemachandran, and he's a principal QA consultant at Thoughtworks, and he's having 19 years of experience in software industry. He's leading Thoughtworks QA India community. He played many roles like project management, product management, and his topic is how AI has changed the way we work. Welcome, Bharat. Over to you.
Thanks, Sachin. I was hoping you wouldn't tell how many years I worked. I thought that would be a secret, but yeah. So unfortunately, you folks know how many years I've been working, uh, and I hope you won't hold that against me. But given that we've already breached that topic, I think it's probably relevant to let you know that I think the software industry has changed a lot since I started work. So I started as a developer initially, and I was tasked to create a test harness on this new tool, which used something called computer vision way back, right? So the tool was called Eggplant. It used to be a visual search comparison. Nearer, this is better. Okay. Yeah, so the tool that I was using is called Eggplant. It used something called computer vision, which none of us had ever heard of at that point in time. But basically, it used to take two images, compare the two images, and see if the images were the same. And I was creating this test harness to help, create some very, very, very early version of automated testing, where somebody would push a build, and then we would have a number of tests that would run. In fact, I think the product itself was built on VB5, so you can imagine, how ancient that particular tool was, right? Uh, so the reason that I'm bringing that up is to say that AI has been around for ages, right? It is not something that is a new concept or something that is brand new to the industry. In fact, how many people know how old AI is, or how long the first AI algorithms were first written? Yeah, so actually in 1960, there was a gentleman, I forget the name. He created this chatbot in, I think, some 50 lines of code or something like that. If you go online and search for it, actually, it's a pretty nifty chatbot. It actually is able to respond quite well nowadays, even compared to the GenAI chatbots and stuff that we see today. If you Google it and check it out, it actually does a pretty decent job, like of conversing with you. I mean, it doesn't obviously have much information, but if you just need something to chat with, it's a great way to get your nerd up, right? In terms of understanding how this kind of stuff could have been done at that point in time. So yeah, but the actual AI algorithms were written more than 100 plus years back, right? So this is a concept that is very, very ancient. It's just that uh, it's been in the focus of the industry over the last 2 years, primarily because of Gen AI and the launch of ChatGPT. So it was almost like the launch of iPhone, Apple 3, right? I mean, like the that phone kind of revolutionized mobile technology because you got a smartphone and it became accessible to everybody. You used to have Blackberries, you used to have the Nokias, the Motorola's. All of them also had some version of a smartphone, but nothing made it as accessible as a 3G, where people could just own it for a very low price comparatively and be able to do a lot of things with it, right? So how many of you here today use AI ML as a regular part of your work today? Okay, actually that's surprising, because I was thinking there would be a lot more hands up. Is there a reason that you folks don't use AIML as part of your daily work? Anyone? I mean, it's not a judgment. I'm just asking. You're curious. So I told you this keynote will be interactive. It's not me just giving gyan. I'd love to understand, your thing about it, right? Is it because your company doesn't allow you to use it? How many people don't use it because they're not allowed to use it at work? Okay. So, okay,
Uh,
how many people don't use it because they don't feel comfortable using it?
Actually, what happens, right? We'll be tend to assign to some particular work. So wherever the AI project is going on, will not be assigned that work. Because of that, that is the main reason. But the thing is that recently I got moved to this AI and ML product. So till from the last 3 years, I was not working on the same thing. From the past 6 months, I'm working on the AI and ML. So because of this reason, majorly the most of the products are not actively moving into AI currently. So most recently, from the past 6 months or 1 year, I'm seeing most of the products are coming. They are integrating some. They are seeing the area where they can integrate AI and ML.
Yeah. So if recent trends, I mean, based on your favorite site for statistics and all of that are to be believed, so you could look at McKinsey, you could look at Gartner, you could look at other published reports, right? The trend shows that almost three-fourths of the industry today is looking to integrate AI either into their business process or into their delivery process. And about two-thirds have said that they have already started doing so, right? So I think this is a very clear indication, and this is why I found it curious that the majority of this room has not tried using AI/ML at work, right? Because the since the advent of generative AI, and I'm saying generative AI, not ChatGPT, not Gemini, all of these, right? So generative AI includes a whole host of different things that you can do with audio, with video, with text, everything, right? Multimodal. All of these are changing the way in which people work. And this is not only technical folks, this is also non-technical folks from a software delivery perspective, from a perspective of using AI to make yourself more efficient and better at what you do, right? So it's very important for us as a community to understand the way in which the software industry is going today and get ourselves at par, if not ahead of it. And if we are not doing so right now, I think we really need to take a pause, understand what's available out there today, and start understanding how to get that to fit in with what we are trying to do, right? And I'm not just saying this as a QA community, as a software industry professional, it's very, very important for us to be able to understand where AI fits in, how AI fits in, and how you need to go about leveraging it. So, what you need to be able to do, what you should not be able to do, are things that every software professional should be able to clearly articulate in your job. It's not something that is a good to have, it is a must have today. So, not only understanding how to use it, but to get ahead by using it in a way that makes your work more productive, better, etc., are things that you need to do, right? And I think one of the pitfalls of us talking about AI blah blah is that everyone feels that only generative AI is the only thing to look at, right? AI is a complete field of its own. There is multiple facets to it, and understanding which facet is most applicable to what you do, the industry that you work in, the work that you do, is extremely important for us to understand. I'm not saying that everyone has to become a data scientist or be able to understand complex algorithms, etc. But it's like driving a car, right? You don't necessarily need to know how an alternator works for you to be able to use a car to get from point A to point B. But you need to know how to drive the car. You need to know how to work the clutch, or if you have an automatic, how gears work, how the accelerator works, how the brake works, right? These are the important things for you to do. You need to know the rules of driving on the road, which says that this is how fast you can go, this is where you can turn, these are the things that you need to do if you need to take a turn, for example. These are all rules that you have to understand. AI is very similar. Using AI at work is extremely analogous to what I just told you right now. There are rules, there are ways in which you can use it, there are limitations, regarding what you can and cannot do. And you need to understand those before you start using it properly, right? So not only is it important for you to understand how to use and how to make advantage of taking, all of these algorithms, all of these wonderful ways of working, but also knowing where to draw the line, where to make sure that you don't get into bad practices, right? So I have been personally working, especially with generative AI. So I got very excited when ChatGPT came out. It was, I was getting a little jaded in the software industry, to be honest, right? And I think this gave me a completely new perspective on software because it is something I didn't know anything about, right? And it was almost like you're learning something fresh from the beginning, understanding how to do things, and the field itself was not full of stuff from other experts around the world, right? Everybody was learning this from scratch. So this was something that gave me a new lease of life in the industry. And it was extremely fun, it was extremely engaging to be able to try out new things, to fail at things, to try out things that and get it to work, for example, and to be able to get it to a point where you're able to do something productive with it, right? So I would encourage you folks that especially have not taken a shine to it as yet, treat it as something that's a playground, right? Like, be excited about trying something new out. Don't be hesitant or scared to look at it as something that is beyond your comprehension, right? It is amazing to get into this particular field. It is amazing to understand how to use it, where to use it, etc. So the reason that I'm laying all of this out is to kind of talk about the next part, which is how has it really transformed my life, my journey. I think people like Kirti, who's like an expert in Gen AI, can also talk a little bit more about it. So please do talk to folks like Kirti, to Darshana, who are working on various projects related to AI, for example. I think it would be good for you to get a holistic perspective on a lot of these things, right? So as I said, my journey, especially deep into generative AI, especially has started 2 years back when ChatGPT kind of came out. So it was something that was still a very new field at that point in time. It wasn't as advanced as it is today. There's a lot of bells and whistles that have been added to make things better. But I think the rules still stay the same, right? You need to know where you need to be able to use it, how you need to be able to use it, and what you need to do to make the best use of it. It is good for everyone to start with that idea in mind. AI/ML is not the answer to everything. It is specific in terms of where it can be used and how it can be used. First of all, you guys need to get comfortable with understanding what is the best use case and what are the best situations in which you can use AI/ML. Please think about that very clearly before you start using it. Because what I've noticed is that a lot of people use it for things that are completely irrelevant and then get disappointed or just throw it away saying, hey, it's a nice toy, but is it really useful in my case, right? And a lot of companies do the same. A lot of companies, went crazy with POCs, trying out new ideas, trying out new things, but they didn't understand what it can and cannot be used for, and what are all the problems with using it, and what are the things that they need to correct or that they need to mitigate as risks that come out with using something like this, right? So before you get started on your journey, it is good for you to draw a scope around what is possible, what is not possible, right? So the reason again that I'm saying all of these things is because when you actually get started with it, your ideas start flowing like crazy, right? In terms of what is possible, what is not. So you need to draw a boundary for yourself to see what is possible and what is not. Once you do that, then you stick to one technology, one tool, try to make the best use of it until it stops being useful to you. Then try something else. Because the reason that I'm saying that is because there are so many shiny new toys out there today that you keep getting FOMO, right? You're like, okay, if I use this, but then if I use that, it might give me something better, right? So I would say get started with one, learn it to a point, until it stops being useful to you or your use case, then switch to something else. And that is another mistake that a lot of companies, a lot of people are doing today, where they just keep shifting models, they just keep shifting, platforms, they shift the ways of doing things. Because today, they introduce a new framework with a new model, with a new agentic method of doing things, and they drop everything that they're doing and try that out today itself. It doesn't work that way, right? It's always good to understand what you're getting into, do that properly, and then move on. So that said, right, how does it figure into how has it transformed the workforce, right? So again, almost all companies today are looking into integrating AI into the way that they're doing things, either from a business perspective or from a delivery perspective. And as software professionals, we all need to be aware that these are, seismic changes for us in terms of the way we do things. So I'll tell you a couple of examples. So when I started working, teams used to be around 30 people large, right? We used to have a proper hierarchy within the team. That in the 2010s became smaller. We started having teams of 10 or like maybe 8, right? Fewer developers. And before we used to have a proper testing team, there used to be a testing lead, there used to be a bunch of testers underneath them. Some even used to have a testing manager within the same product or project or whatever, right? Then that transformed into teams having a couple of testers, maybe a lead QA, and then that lead QA reporting to a practice head or something like that, right? Uh, Now it has turned to a point where there may not even be any QAs in a project, even on like experimental projects where quality is very important, or even on projects where uh, you would think that it clearly calls out for a QA role in the project, right? So the nature of what you can and cannot do has changed a lot. People are expecting folks on a particular project to be able to do more than just what their primary role is. So developers are expected to do more than just development work, right? QAs are almost expected to play a business analyst QA role, and also be able to do maybe a project management role also if required. Where do you get the bandwidth to be able to do all of these things? The answer for me, being having been a part of a couple of these projects, is to turn to AI, right? So this has revolutionized the way that I do work, to be honest. And I'm not ashamed to say that almost every single thing I do today has some AI tool involved in that particular work, whether it is writing a email out, creating a document, reviewing code, whatever, right? You have numerous ways in which to do it. So in my company, we are allowed to use Copilot, for example. We are allowed to use a couple of other tools that enable us to complete this work. So if you're not leveraging that, if your company is providing you with the opportunities to do so, or you don't know the best ways to be able to do so, you are at a disadvantage compared to all of the other folks who are doing it today. And you will be required to do it going forward. So I think all companies today have a mandatory training, just like they have for prevention of sexual harassment, all of those things, right? Security training. They have a mandatory course today that gets people to use all these AI related tools, because they want folks to understand that this is going to be the way of the future, right? And this is a seismic shift, especially for folks who don't know how to use it. It's not a checkbox. It is a way to actually show improvement in the way that you do things, and show the way that uh, you can make things faster, better, with better quality as soon as possible, right? Has anyone tried doing these things? I'll talk about some of the ways in which I use it, but I'd love to know folks who have tried doing some of these things on their side.
I've tried as a coach many times to get some perspectives on some of the challenges teams are going through leveraging ChatGPT's knowledge, comparing that with our own real world experience, and maybe what is the expectation from the people in the organizations about that. And also some of the video based tools to edit some nice graphics to create some compelling messages. that's very quicker if you want to do that. So, and including the images. So that's what I've been trying.
Yeah, so I think that's a great. So I don't know if everyone heard it, but what he mentioned was that using AI as a way to enable learning, to be able to enable uh, you know coming up with things like learning plans. So, for example, there might be a new technology, a new a course that you want to do. For example, you don't really know how to do it, or you don't know what is the best way for you to approach doing something like this, right? Uh, let's say DBT. I don't know how many folks know DBT. So DBT is a data related tool. You may not know anything about it, right? You can go to your favorite AI tool, create a lesson plan for yourself, saying that you're a beginner, you don't know anything about it, you would like to get to an intermediate stage, right? Ask it to quote relevant information and only bring in links that are verified. When you do that, it will create a lesson plan for you, and you can break it up, keep breaking it up to make it easy for you to learn, right? Either you can learn it from the tool itself, or you can ask it to point it to courses, links, whatever, right? The links are not always great, but you can still get that basic understanding to be able to do more. That is something that I do on a regular basis. I see some terms I don't understand, I look it up immediately. Before, I used to do Google search and try to figure out what are the best links, are they good, blah blah, right? Maybe do a Udemy course if I have time. Now I can get that same information within half an hour. So there are no excuses for anyone to say, hey, I don't know how to do something. I don't know how to get started with something, right? I can create boilerplate code, and don't create full code. Please create boilerplate code, which allows you to do fill in the blank kind of stuff to understand how to get started with something new, right? These are ways in which you can quickly leverage uh, things that you don't understand well, and create a platform for yourself that makes you better and makes you a better I would say software professional. In fact, I would not even say QA, right? Because these are basic hygiene that we need to start doing for ourselves now, and these are the things that organizations are expecting us to do, because these are not optional anymore. Now nobody can say that, hey, I don't know how to go about learning something new. These are the ways in which you have to learn something new. And there are tools that allow you to do this. You can converse with it, saying, hey, I don't understand this term. Can you go deeper? Can you go deeper? To a point where you will be able to articulate exactly what that term means, why it means what it means, how it came about, and what it needs to do. So I would encourage you folks, if you haven't tried this already, please do so. Try it with something fun. You don't even have to make it about your work. It can be something uh, about the philosophy of life or whatever interests you, right? So get started with it, get comfortable with it, understand how to do these. These are the ways in which we are revolutionizing the way that we are working today, right? What are some other ways in which you use it?
Right. Yeah. So actually, I use for test data creation, basically. So like we have like currently I work with the benefit domain. So there have lots of PI data. So there have lots of PI data for the customers. So we do not directly inject that data like some SSN and all in a direct on Copilot or something. So we try to create some mask test data, like we mask some SSN, like 4 digit, 3D, as per our like we can customize that. And also actually, I'm using for the code review mainly, like I'm reviewing some my peers code. So like I use that Copilot things, and also I'm using Amazon Q for in my day-to-day activity to just understand the scenarios and all. And sometime for some edge cases, suppose like as a human, right, we are not able to identify some edge cases. So for that I just ask with them, like there have some scenario, so can I get some more edge cases and all. So I get some bunch of edge cases. So it's make my day-to-day activity very like you can say like it's like easy, make easy the things. The ease of learning is also be there. So I use in that way, like test data and code reviewing majorly.
Wonderful. So, in case you guys did not hear that, he mentioned that he uses it for creating test data, synthetic data, where especially he's not allowed to use production or other sources, right? Because of issues around using data that has customer data in it or that is not allowed to be used. So synthetic test data creation is an amazing way to be able to use it. Code reviews are iffy because not everybody likes to expose their code to other people. And if you have permission to do so, please do it. Like I said, using something like a Copilot or a Tab9 or any other tools that integrate with your IDE that is allowed by your organization, that's a great way for you to use it, right? And there are many tips and tricks that you can try out, which are available online. And shameless plug, but please go read my blogs also on this. But yeah, so on different ways in which you can uh, use all of these tools to be able to uh, review like a snippet of code versus a entire piece of code, like a module of code versus a repository of code, for example. All of these are ways that you can explore and make your work faster, right? Like for example, when I got started, you couldn't fit in more than a small piece of code to do a code review, right? Now you can fit in a lot larger pieces of code to do a code review, for example. But did you know that you can also review code repositories, even though the tool may not allow you to do it? You can start with something as basic as the structure of the repository, right? So we talked about test harness earlier. How many of you use a good test harness? I'm 100% sure, given time constraints, etc., you're probably not going to do so, right? Uh, so these are great ways in which you can quickly refactor your code, or you can quickly get ideas on how to improve your code to make your systems better or your coding better, for example. Even if you don't code, right? You can review somebody else's code now. You can look at old Fortran code and figure out what it does. It might not be 100% accurate, but at least you have a start, right? So these are ways in which you can quickly get started with using your coding options available. So even if you're not a hardcore coder, you can still review code for clean code. You can still talk to the code and understand if it is structured well, if it is done well. So you can learn from good code, you can learn from bad code, right? These are ways in which you improve your own skills, right? You want to give it to him?
Yeah, so couple of them, like I was actually doing a new development for Spring Boot and RabbitMQ. I never did it. So now the ChatGPT can also get the link references and summarize it for you, right? So I just put my problem statement, put the RabbitMQ documentation, and then just said, okay, this is what I want. It gave me a piece of boilerplate code, which I can start with. And we also use GitHub Copilot, so that's one more thing. I've been using Cloud.A for a lot of what do you say, storytelling kind of a thing, because I found Cloud.A to be much better than ChatGPT in that area. Um, I write LinkedIn sometimes and not frequently, but whatever my experiences, I try to give it a structure, and then it gives me a nice post. Then I review it. If it's anything, then okay. Otherwise, goes back. I also tried cloning my voice for the podcast. Did two episodes. Did not need any editing, anything. Just put the text in there, and then you're done in 5 minutes. So I mean, it used to take me like at least 4 hours to do everything, recording, mixing, and everything. But I could do it in 5 minutes. So that was like a lifesaver. So didn't do it afterwards, but it was only like 2 episodes that I did. Um, Other than that, I also use it for a lot of Slack when I'm talking to like bigger audience, like the whole organization. Like we have a channel where you can post any questions regarding company, like how it is doing, what it is. If you want to, so you want to keep your tone neutral, you can just go and say, oh, this is something that we are not doing right. So you can give guidelines like, okay, put it in a neutral tone and slightly friendly, not too offensive. Then whatever you want to say, you can put two, 3 sentences. It will give you a nice formatted thing back. So I use it in daily for that communication as well, and coding as well. So it has helped a lot to save time and also not damage your reputation in front of all the people, right? So you can't come across as rude for like 200 people. So it's better if you do that before.
Yeah, I mean, great examples again, right? So in case you didn't catch that, you mentioned he uses it for creating boilerplate code. Again, asterisks around it because code generation is great, but there is a lot of work that goes into making it workable, right? So unless you're creating a small snippet of code, which you can easily figure out what it does and make changes to if required, if you're creating larger pieces of code, sometimes it's not worth the effort of creating that code, right? So those are things that you need to keep in mind. But I think one of the great things he said was in terms of creating templates, in terms of creating storytelling from what you do. So a lot of us get stories, and if you look at Jira, if you look at any of your places where your stories are created, they will maximum have 2 3 lines of description. There will be no acceptance criteria, there will be no understanding of what needs to be done. The amount of time you spend in communicating with people, figuring out if this is what you need done, can be cut short a lot. You can do standardization of story templates. So rather than uh, asking someone to fill out that template, use a tool like this to be able to create something, take it back and say, does this look complete? Is this what you guys meant? So that way you are saving a lot of time, because people like to point out what you're doing wrong rather than creating something from scratch, right? So these are ways in which you can improve your work efficiency. You can improve the way in which you are bringing quality to what you do, right? Again, depending on the policies, right? So some people are not comfortable using AI for something like this because they feel, hey, company secrets should not be out there, to be honest. So uh, please make sure that your company is okay with you guys using all of these kind of things, right? Another way is standardization, automation of creation of templates, creation of, so something that I found very useful that I liked a lot, maybe I think even Phantom JS and the Phantom QA tool might be doing this now, but you take the Open API 3 spec, you take your basic requirements, it can create an Open API 3 spec for you. You find somebody on the team who is happy to keep updating the Open API 3 spec, you should reward that person a lot. But 99% you will never find somebody who is happy to do that on a regular basis, right? But this tool can do all of these boring, mundane tasks for you. And that is the point of using tools like this, right? To make yourself focus on the more high value tasks, right? You can look at, I think you mentioned that you also use it for testing edge cases, for coming up with scenarios, for ideating, and whether you have covered everything or looking at things holistically. So all of these things are great ways in which you can use this. In the interest of time, I have a lot more use cases. Please feel free to come and talk to me during the breaks or any other time, and I'm happy to talk through any more things. But now I'd like to talk about some of the risks of using AI. So I've been talking a lot about the great things that you can do with it, and there are an amazing number of things that you can do with this, right? But there are a lot of big risks as well. And the biggest risk that I have seen is people blindly believing what comes back from the tool. They don't put in the effort that is required to make sure that the content that comes back is verified by the person using it. Either because they don't know whether the content coming back is correct or not, or they just choose not to do so. And that is extremely risky, because you run a number of problems just blindly believing what comes back, right? One is that you don't know whether that information is correct or not, because a lot of these tools, especially generative AI related tools, but AI in general, has some amount of non-determinism, has some amount of hallucinations related to it, right? It gives you back some information. You have to verify whether it is correct or not. Whether you're using an approved tool or not, the buck stops with you. The accountability stops with you. So you have to make sure that it is correct. It is verified, right? The second thing that I've seen is people get lazy. They just copy paste. They don't, I mean, this kind of blends into the previous point that I was talking about. But, the templates, are the wordings correct? Is the information that is in there correct? Are you putting the right information into the system that you're using? You can use these kind of tools, but you need to make sure that you are not exposing anything that is sensitive to your organization, that is sensitive to the project that you're working in, etc. You can anonymize things, but you need to be careful about it. But a lot of people, they just copy paste, and then something happens, and then they are held liable for it. You may not be found out today, but at some point it will come out, and it will become very bad for the organization and for you individually. So please be very careful about things like that. And then, what we just talked about, right? The hallucinations themselves. Make sure that what you're getting back is something that builds your knowledge, which enables you to verify what you're checking, right? And make sure that what you understand from this is verified through other sources. Don't use only one tool, especially when you're learning. Use multiple tools. Make sure that they're all saying the same thing, right? When you do that, what happens is that you have the comfort of being able to verify things from one tool to another tool or a third tool, right? That way you also get some of the gaps filled from what the previous tool could not do for you, right? So these are ways in which you can help improve that particular situation. The third thing that I would like to talk about is that everybody feels that AI is like a complete block. The way that AI is going to get integrated in the future is that it is one part of the entire story. It is not the entire story itself. So, what we have to do in terms of our traditional software development, what we do in terms of the software delivery will not change. What we are looking to do is to improve the efficiency, the quality of what we are trying to do. So, please keep your existing skills abreast of what is required in the industry. Don't forget about those. AI is not going to solve all your problems. It is helpful for you to improve what you're trying to do, right? So please keep building your niche skills in areas in which you may not have done before. Uh, keep exploring new options. Keep looking at traditional, methods of software delivery and improvements over there to keep trying out new things, right? So these are all things that you have to keep trying out and have to keep doing. So while AI/ML is great, please be aware of all of these very important risks. There are more as well. Please come and talk to me. We can talk about those. So yeah, so I'd like to end my discussion here right now. There are a lot of wonderful speakers that are coming up. I really hope you're excited to talk to them and stuff. But I'm happy to take any questions that might be there. Maybe how much time do we have? Yeah, so we have 5 minutes for questions. So open to any questions. So it could be experience related. Anything else that you feel I might not have touched on when I talked about?
So I have this question, as you already highlighted that AI is not no longer an option. It's already there. And one of the major implication is that it is going to automate away the mundane single specialist kind of work, whether it's QA, like let's say manual testing, or DB or UI specific. And the ask is, how can we become multi-skill learners, right? So, in your perspective, from a QA as a profession, how should QA professional cope up with what gets automated, and how can you become a multi-skilled learner and a problem solver? What are some of the key advices you have for the QA professionals?
So I think the first thing we need to understand is it's not it's not relevant to just be a QA anymore.
Yeah.
You need to have skills in multiple areas. You need to be able to be comfortable reviewing code, writing code, creating DevOps, scripts, for example, being able to go into GitHub and debugging issues that are happening in support and production. So all of these are things that maybe did not fit into the role of a QA traditionally. These are things that people just have to get comfortable doing.
Yeah.
So you have to become more of a generalist in terms of being a software professional rather than just being somebody who's a QA.
Yeah.
Right. So while it is good to have those niche skills, like I said, please continue doing those because those are not going to go away. It's just that people are going to give you less and less time to be able to do those same things. And they're going to give you fewer resources to be able to do those same things.
Mm.
So that is what is going to change in the future. It's not that the job is going to go away. Right. And in terms of manual testing going away, to be honest, the way that most AI tested now is all manual only. There is very little automation that is being done in that, right? Because of the non-determinism. It's like performance testing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Performance testing, you can run the script, but the reporting and all of that is manual even today,
Yeah.
right? On the way that you do the insights from the scripts and all of that. So those are the kind of things. The high value tasks will always remain high value tasks. You can call them manual, you can call them automated, whatever. The point of automation is to help you improve your efficiency. It is not to remove your job. It is to be able to delegate things that can be done by a computer while you focus on that. I think that messaging has somehow got lost
Yeah.
over the last 20, 30 years in software development, right? The point of automation is not to remove work. The point of automation is to make you more efficient in your work. The same way AI ML is supposed to make you more efficient in your work.
Yeah.
So rather than having three people doing something, you should be able to do it with one person. That is the point of this.
Yeah.
So if we are subscribing to only doing low value jobs and saying, hey, my work is going away, yes, it is.
Yeah.
But if we are saying, hey, I'm going to become multi-skilled, being able to try out other roles, try out different caps in my project, that, in my opinion, is the way to go forward. And leveraging tools like this, coaching yourself. I mean, you don't necessarily need somebody to come and teach you how to do something anymore. So being able to coach yourself, being able to put the effort in to understand how to do something new by yourself is the way forward. And in my opinion, if you're not doing that, then you're making yourself irrelevant to the industry as a whole.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, nothing specific to using AI at work, but anybody here is doing any LLM evaluation work would like to
Lots
connect
of
later.
people are. So,
Yeah.
see, there are two types of work that I have seen, right? And I would like to segregate what you just said into two parts. So, the way that we are talking about AI today, or the focus of the way that I have been talking about today, is using AI at work, right? It is not testing AI. Testing AI is a separate field of its own, and that requires some skills in data science, that requires some understanding of data, that requires some understanding of ML ops, and all of these particular topics, right? So there is a lot of work that is happening over there as well. And that is very interesting work. And that like I said, a lot of that work is manual as of today, because there's no good way to automate that as of right now. I think a few folks in ThoughtWorks are working on things like that. So if you're interested to know, please. So
Yeah.
my previous project that I just rolled off right now was creating a Gen AI product and moving it to production. So that's exactly what we just did. But again, that is one aspect of quality in a AI project, which is very different from what I just talked about. But
Correct.
yes, that is happening.
Yeah, because we are using deep eval and few other things which are there. But I just want to know if people are using any other
Yeah,
things.
please
Because,
contact him
yeah,
for
please.
more details or more conversations on this
Yeah,
topic.
thank you. Thank you.
Maybe you can introduce yourself, everyone.
My name is Gunesh Patil. I work here at Usher in HSR. I'm a test architect there. So we have a couple of products which are like very AI focused. So we have a lot of things which we want to do on the evaluation of the LLM responses and everything. So yeah, please would be love to connect with people who are working on the similar things. Yeah, thank you.
So do we have one more question? Time for one more? One more question? Okay, cool. So thank you guys. Lovely to talk to you folks. So I have to give these two things out. So I have to give you one for expanding on what vodka is. I think that was pretty cool. So let's maybe have one more question. So best use case that you've used AI for at work today. Let's have a vote. We had 5 people speaking. How many folks want to nominate someone for the award? So we had one on test data creation and okay. Who else? Okay, here you go. Thanks, folks. Have a lovely day and I hope to talk to you folks going forward.